Um, so this may be a habit of mine of repeating videos that I may have made before, but sometimes I come across a certain article or something that reminds me of a particular subject. I can always edit videos later on anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I want to talk about the issue of drug use and responsibility. Clearly, I don't have time in the video to go into every single detail, so please bear that in mind. But I want to lay out some of my views on this. One of the key things that I've noticed in the drugs debate in recent years in Western countries is that there is a lot of cynicism about punishment versus treatment. And that is that a lot of people say that punishing drug addicts doesn't work because they just resent it, and it just it doesn't actually help them sort out the problem. Now, I fully understand where that comes from, because if drug use completely enslaves a person's body, it completely takes over their thinking, their entire life, and it destroys their life. So clearly these people need help, and compassion. We all make mistakes, so I can understand the need for some compassion as well. And quite often it might be because they're in circumstances where they face a lot of pressure from a certain circumstance, and that's the way they've dealt with it. A bit like some people resort to alcohol in stressful situations and so on. Except the difference is alcohol is illegal and those sort of drugs aren't. What I do want to talk a bit about though is that one issue I really take with this is that the idea of responsibility seems to be completely left out of the drug debate, and I do have a problem with that. I can understand why people don't think it is pragmatic to punish those who are struggling with a drug addiction in itself. However, if they have resorted to violent crime in order to fuel that habit, then why the hell should they escape justice? That should be concurrent with treatment, but why should they not pay a price for what they've done? If they have mugged someone to get money to pay a drug dealer, then why should they not face justice for that? This sort of is based on the idea that drug users are purely victims and that's it. But people forget that, call me old-fashioned, but when this starts off somewhere, it starts off with knowingly taking a dangerous illegal substance. Knowingly taking a dangerous illegal substance. I'm not talking about people who are spiked, or young people who are pressured into it by bullies or something like that. I'm talking about people who do it, adults who do it, knowing what they're doing, knowing it's dangerous, but taking that risk anyway, and say, oh fuck it, I'll take it anyway because I'm at a hard time in my life, or whatever the reason is. Now, whatever the explanation is, that is a choice. And this isn't about being judgmental. Anyone can make mistakes. All I'm saying is there should be responsibility. It's not about being judgmental, because I've made mistakes in my life, but people need to acknowledge that when a drug user chooses to take a substance, that is predominantly reckless. You can't say any other way. Of course it is. And I really pay no attention to clowns who try to claim that drugs are harmless. It's just, you need to look at some of the fucked up effects that drugs have. I do have quite strong views on this, because I think it's stupid, the idea that if you put a chemical into your body, it's not going to have some sort of effect. I know if I drink a lot, that's not good for me. And I'm not saying that I've never done that, I have, but that, if you do that, it's not healthy. So, yeah, treatment is very important, and it probably is the case that the war on drugs has failed. But if you look at Asian countries, they have a different attitude to this. There is a treatment program, but they also pay a lot of attention on responsibility. And actually, I agree with that. The problem in liberal democracies is, for far too long, the issue of responsibility has been taken away from the user, because these are people whose lives have been messed up in large part because of the drugs, and then we see them as a victim, and it's true they are a victim, but they're a victim of their own actions. So how about responsibility? I'm not saying we should be cold bastards and say, oh, you deserve it. They should get treatment as a humanitarian thing. They should get treatment, but I really get tired of liberals, not just liberals, a lot of people actually enter into this debate with the context of sort of, oh, they're victims of drug wars failed, let's stop punishing them. Okay, I can understand the arguments about that, but at least if you're going to say that, then accept that they also have responsibility for taking the drugs in the first place. I mean, that's the problem I have with this. And I'm not talking about mitigating circumstances. For example, if someone is spiked, or if someone is, forcibly fed drugs. I'm talking about adults who voluntarily take drugs. Whatever the circumstances are, maybe they're doing it to deal with something. There's and like any group of people, there are a diverse range of people. But I do not accept that drugs are harmless. It's just a moronic statement to make, and some people do try that one. It's just but I just want to see more talk about responsibility and all of this. This isn't about preaching. Like I say, everyone makes mistakes. I've had nights where I have drank way too much, and I've woken up with killer hangovers, and I've hated it. But I couldn't turn around and blame anyone else for that. Likewise, drug users, when they take drugs, I do somewhat resent that they blame society for that, because they're the ones who chose to break the law and to take an illegal, dangerous substance. Now, call me a cold bastard if you will, but I'm not saying that they don't deserve treatment. I'm not saying that everyone deserves a second chance. Of course, it's a human gesture to give them treatment, but let's stop pretending that there isn't responsibility involved as well, because there is. And whilst I'm not an expert on the subject, I don't think that it is particularly productive to teach them that they're victims, rather than sort of saying, look, you've made this bad choice in your life, we'll give you help, but you also need to take responsibility. And for the record, if someone takes drugs, they become addicted, and they resort to violent crime, a good example of this is the film Basketball Diaries with Leonardo DiCaprio. In that film, it's set in the early 70s in New York City. A group of young men start off as petty criminals, but they end up as turned into quite serious crime, and it's the same situation. They mug people, they mug old ladies to get money to get their fix. Now, it's just stupid to say that shouldn't result in some sort of punishment. Yeah, I am conservative on crime, and I don't think that the idea of talking about responsibility should be a controversial issue. Why? So yeah, focus on treatment, and yes, if there's no violence involved, then obviously prison is not the answer. I mean, I'm opposed to the idea of sending someone to prison for drug use. Although I don't think that, I need to look at the situation. I'd be opposed to sending them to prison solely for drug use. But if that is matched with committing crime to fuel the drug use, then yeah, they should go to prison. Why should they escape that? Why? If they've assaulted someone in order to fuel a drug habit, if they've mugged an old lady, if they've in some circumstances killed someone, then why? Why the hell should they escape justice when they made that choice?